Hello, everybody. Today we'll be talking about 25 different loot locations you can get in the Player Unknown Battlegrounds interactive map. This is going to come with a disclaimer because you have to assume that the flight path is going to be able to reach all parts of the island. For instance, southwest to northeast, or northwest to southeast, vice versa, or it can go horizontally east to west or west to east, and then again north to south or south to north. Assuming you have one of those flight paths, you should be able to get to all 25 of these locations that I'm going to break down for you here. So we'll get right into it, and the first location we're going to be talking about is Zarki in the northwest corner. Now, you have to understand that sometimes you'll need a car to get to Zarki, or you'll need a different form of transportation, possibly a boat. But once you're there, I'm going to break down how to approach the city. Now, one person should definitely start on the south side and loot the 6 to 7 houses you see down here. And then the other 3 people should start on the different corners of Zarki. I like the south, the northwest, and the east, all kind of converging into the center. This should give you adequate enough loot to get into the next circle: backpack, helmet, armor, and guns. Now, the next place I'll talk about, number 2, is Severny and the shooting range. There's also 2 bunkers in shooting range you need to keep aware of because that's going to give you some good probabilities of loot. So 2 people Severny, 2 people shooting range with the houses to the southeast as well. That should give you plenty of loot to get into the next circle. Um, Always be careful when splitting up with the team. The third place we're going to talk about is the new town of Kamishki and Stalber. Now I would have one person loot Stalber with its new buildings. I'd have 2 people kind of loot Kamishki and one person in the very far north, with one person from Kamishi going south to the new complexes in the southeast. It's a good 7 houses. This should give you plenty of loot to get into the circle between all 4, and plenty of vehicle spawns as well. Now, I believe 3 different teams could loot Yasnaya without running into each other and without conflict. The first team would loot these apartments, the back priorities, the barn, and the cafe. That's in the northeast corner. The next team would loot the police station, the library, and the apartments in the south. That's plenty of loot. And then the last team would loot the west side, which is the 2 doubles, which is the priorities, and the apartments. That's 3 different teams looting Yasnaya who don't have to fight each other for loot, who can adequately get enough stuff for each person and move into the next circle in a different direction and avoid conflict. The next town, number 7, is Razhak and the Water Town and the Ruins. So here I'd like to break off and have 2 people loot Razhak, starting from the east or the west side and kind of converging to the west or the south. And then I'd have 2 people loot Ruins and Watertown. Um, and then kind of meet at that car spawn in the center here with the other team members trying to avoid people from school or the apartments. But that should be plenty of loot for 4 people. Now, the next place I want to talk about is Georgepol. I believe there's 5 different loot locations in Georgepol. In the north, I have the east here, which has plenty of apartment buildings, plenty of 2 stories and priorities. This should be enough for one team. And then the other team can loot kind of the west side in the north, which has the library and the police station, which I'm going to mark here, and the apartment buildings. If you're not in the circle, you won't even be able to loot more than this before having to head into the circle if you don't want to take loot damage. Now, in the south part of Georgepol, we have what's called the crates on the east side here, and this gives you a very high gun spawn, but not so much med, so you got to kind of be careful with that, looting the inside and outside of the crates. And then the second team can loot the center, which has 6 high priorities in the north and in the south. So these buildings I'm underlining are definitely priorities you need to start with right away. And then a whole nother team could loot hospital, and then the southwest buildings going down the coast, avoiding people in North Georgepol. And then these hangars are kind of in no man's land, so you can be careful of those. And the houses down there are definitely good transition loot spots. So after Georgepol, we're gonna go to the school and apartments near Razhak. Now, you can do 2 people school or you can do 1 person school. I think both strategies are fine. I like throwing 1 person school and 2 people in the apartments. The apartments take a while, and then 1 person kind of take these houses down here. That's usually a good amount of loot with like the 12 buildings down there. So those 4 people can loot that area. After that, we're gonna go to the east side, which is pretty spread out, but it's a little bit of a greedy strategy. But I love doing 1 person mansion, 2 person Lipovka, and 1 person crater or prison. There's plenty of houses on the outskirts too, so if you get beat and need a veer, there's plenty of houses just to get a gun early fight so you don't get killed with a pistol in your hand. But this 4 person loot strategy gets you like pretty max loot Can't really ask for more than this in a game if you're able to get this. After the mansion and Lipovka and prison, we can talk about Pochinki. Pochinki is pretty tight. I would just say one squad could get full looted there within the first circle. I always like having one person land on the west side or the east side. I'm marking it here because that's got good loot, and then head in and then have 2 or 3 people start Pochinki, just kind of taking a different corner in the north and the west and the east and kind of converging in the center. That way people come or crash you on the outskirts. You're kind of all together ready to go and take a fight, so you don't get wiped there. After Pochinki, number 16 is Gatka. People call this country looting, but one person can loot the north side of Gatka. That's plenty of loot. You have another person who can loot like the northeast corner of Gatka. That's pretty adequate loot to get going. One person kind of in the south area of Gatka to get a gun, and then there's one person can kind of loot down here in the corner. It's not the greatest, but that person can kind of converge to the southwest there if they know it's safe, if they know a lot of people are north of them. This area down here has got a lot of loot too, as like a secondary loot option after you're done with Gatka. So that should give you plenty of loot. After Gatka, I call this the West Coast strategy. This would require a pretty precise dropping method. So one person would drop here, one person would drop at this area down here on these 12 houses, another person more in the south, and then one person more to the north, kind of in this area. They can drop here or north. And then the transition point, this person would go there, this guy would go up here, these 12 houses would kind of go east to those 4 houses, and this person would go up here to these 2 houses and kind of converge, or whoever gets there first can keep looting if you're a faster looter. But this whole area in here should give 4 people adequate loot. After West Coast, we have number 18, Primorsk and Quarry. So Primorsk is a little tight on 4 people, so whoever's dropping should definitely start the hangars or the cafe as a priority loot. And then one person shouldn't loot Primorsk at all. I think they should go to this kind of east village here, or this quarry section, and kind of loot here and get their loot by themselves here. Maybe put an advanced person here, as they need to have really good survival skills if they get converged on, but that helps spread the loot. The next area is Ferry Pier or Fishing Village. I'd put 2 people there, one person at these 12 houses, and one person kind of in the center here looting this compound and the gas station and the other buildings. The 2 lone ones going into Fishing Village to kind of spread out the loot. This should give you enough to either camp bridge or move into the next circle and take someone else. Careful for that West Village. I like looting that, but Primorsk sometimes will contest you for that, so be careful trying to branch over there. After Primorsk and Quarry and the Ferry Pier and houses, we have the farm and the south coast. Now, again, this is where people should drop. One at the farm, one in the center, one in the west, and one at these barns in the south. And there's plenty of house transition points here to start looting after you're done your compound. Looting this whole area should get you very looted without question. Number 21, Milta and the bunkers to the north. So I would say the max you can probably get in Milta is 3 people. I usually have one person branch to the bunkers or the houses to the north, excluding Logging Village. These houses to the east are a little risky, but they have great loot, so don't underestimate that. One person can usually sneak that, but Milta Power might be contesting you. Definitely avoid that logging area. It takes forever to loot. So then we have number 22, Milta Power. I'd have 2 people at the big power plant, 2 people at the small power plant, and then there's a lot of loot to be had on the outsides to the west. So the people from Big Power go to the north, people from Milta Power go south, and you kind of loot all those extra places and get a boat or a car and head in. Number 23, Novo. So Novo's a little tricky because you need 2 people to loot the crates for guns, and then you need 2 people to loot the housing complexes for meds. So I'd have one person start at the south, one person start at the north, and then kind of converge all in the center and meet up and try to finish the houses there, or the crates, whoever gets done first. After Novo, we have military base. I would say 2 teams could adequately loot military base without coming in conflict. It's a little tough, so this is for more experienced people, but you have the west side of military base, which I'm outlining here, and then you have the east side of military base. I'm going to cut through the dorms here because the dorms seem to be dead center with high elevation. That's always seems to be contested, so you got to be real careful fighting for those dorms. But you have the east factories, and you have the west factories, and you have the radar detection system, so all that can really get you enough loot. If you feel you don't want to take a fight and they're converging, the east side can go north to the island and the west side can go to the south part of the island. There's plenty of houses on both sides to have that you can be looting here. So always try to avoid an early conflict and not lose that man. But there you have it. 25 different loot places to loot on this map. Special thanks to Bransa with PUBG Online and Web Destroyer for PUBGMaps.io. Please check it out. It's a great interactive map. Thank you to Right Minded for supplying the music. If you have any questions, I'll leave it in the description and some answers for you. And then stay tuned for the next map coming up.